Welcome back to Great Day. According to the CDC, almost 50,000 people a year will die by suicide, and that includes kids in the U.S. Loved ones always struggle with these questions. What could I have done to stop them? And how come I didn't know? Our next guest has a very unique perspective. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge hoping to end it all, but it resulted in an entirely different outcome and a series of miracles and a mission. Today, Kevin Hines is an advocate for suicide prevention. His latest effort is to bring more awareness concerning young people in particular. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among those ages 10 to 34. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Deborah. How are you today?
I am doing well. I think the last time I spoke to you, we were just kind of exiting that whole COVID shutdown, which brought even more awareness to suicide prevention. You were one of 34 survivors on record of surviving that jump from the Golden Gate Bridge. There's a 99% of jumps that are fatal. You were meant to do something.
I got the gift of a second chance at this beautiful life. And I know today that life is, in fact, worth living. I travel the world today 300 plus days a year, sharing stories of hope, healing, and recovery from brain pain, mental illness to people willing to listen, with the idea that I don't want to just reach one person in each audience. I want to reach the entire audience every time and help them recognize their true value, because when someone feels valued, they don't take their lives.
Yeah. By the way, since the last time we spoke, there's been something called the Golden Gate Net that's come to fruition, and you were an advocate for that. Explain to people what that is.
Thank you. So for the last 20 years, my father, myself, my wife, and many other people have fought to raise the suicide deterrent nets at the Golden Gate Bridge to effectively end suicide there. We worked tirelessly for the better part of 20 years, 2 decades, and the nets are now in place. And as of, from January 1 last year, 2024, to December 31st, 2024, because of the nets, there was in fact a 73% reduction in suicides at the Golden Gate Bridge. The only reason there's still suicides that occur there is because there's a gap in the net that they're trying to fill right now. It was difficult to fill with the curvature of the bridge, but they're solving that problem. Very soon, Deborah, it will likely be the fact that 0 suicides will occur at the Golden Gate Bridge going forward, and that's an amazing accomplishment and proof positive that reduction of access to lethal means absolutely saves lives.
Yeah, and just visually seeing that is a reminder that people who don't even know you got your back. They got you, right? There are all kinds of reasons why people may end their lives. Sometimes it's an event that they just can't get over, that's too painful to deal with. Other times there's a genetic component. Your early life, there may have been a genetic component to it. You were neglected by your parents, but partially because they were dealing with some big battles of their own.
Yeah, it's very important to point out. My birth parents, I'm adopted. My birth parents, my birth father was half Mexican, half Italian. My birth mother came from Jamaica. And they struggled deeply with what they called in the 1970s manic depression, what we today call bipolar disorder, the very same brain disease I've been diagnosed 3 times with. And they coped with that diagnosis after my brother and I were born with drugs and alcohol, hardcore drugs and alcohol. And tragically, they would die horribly because of these struggles. And my birth brother and I would be taken into protective custody, placed in foster care, where we both got bronchitis, and he would die next to me. So from the very beginning, I was a bit of a survivor. And growing up in the Hines family, the people that adopted me and made me their son, Pat and Debbie Hines, are my mom and dad. They saved my life. They gave me a future filled with hope. But at 17 years of age, my brain effectively broke. I had a complete mental breakdown. And by 19, the pain was so great, I believed I had to take my life. But I make it clear, Deborah, I never wanted to die. I believed I had to. And those are 2 categorically different things.
Yeah.
When you're in that much brain pain, you just want the pain to stop, just like every other kind of pain in the world.
I remember a friend of mine who had made that attempt explained it to me like this. They said she was seeking a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I remember you shared with us that oftentimes there is a small window of that suicide ideation. And if you can get to somebody during that small window, if that person can, the minute they have that ideation, reach out to kind of like a buddy to talk them literally off the ledge, that can make a big difference as well.
It really does. And as I travel around the world sharing these stories, I share a method that I've been using for 25 years now since my attempt. It'll be September 25th of this year will be my 25th anniversary of my attempt off the Golden Gate Bridge. I share a two-pronged method to never die by your hands, and I'm going to share it with you if you don't mind. Find a mirror, anywhere. Look in that mirror and say these words. My thoughts do not have to become my actions. They can simply be my thoughts if they're dangerous to myself or others. They never have to own, rule, or define what I do next. Thus, you never have to attempt or die in the first place. The second thing I do is turn to anyone willing to hear me and say four simple but very effective words. I need help now. The difference between me and people who die by suicide is I don't stop saying I need help now until one person is willing to answer the call.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, it was a miracle that you survived that jump, but there was a series of miracles that happened. You're in the water and you should have drowned because you were paralyzed with 3 shattered vertebrae, but Mother Nature took over.
Yes, Mother Nature did, and by the grace of God, I survived. I give it up to God. I called out to God on my way down. I prayed to God that I would live. Upon resurfacing from the depths of the water, I kept going down. I couldn't stay afloat. My boots were waterlogged. My long sleeve clothing was heavy, and I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to drown. This is it. No one's coming to save me. And that's when something began circling beneath me, something very large, very slimy, and very alive, and it began bumping me to the surface, keeping me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. And it turned out, I thought it was a shark at first. It turned out by passersby and witnesses who would later recount this to the Coast Guard, it was in fact a sea lion keeping me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me.
And then you needed specific medical attention. The surgeon who would address that was normally not on duty at that time. Turned out he was on duty, and that part of your body was healed. Then you were in a psych ward. In fact, the other thing that you did is you've checked yourself in at times, and that's another thing. Without shame to say I need help now. That's part of needing help now. But something amazing happened during one of your stays. You met the love of your life.
I did. In my third psych ward stay, I met Margaret Hines, who, by the way, this is very apropos. Today is our 18th wedding anniversary.
Aww.
So today is a very special day. After I get off this call, we are going to spend the day together. She is my gift from God, the heavens above, the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. I met her in a psych ward. She was visiting her cousin. I, of course, was a patient. It's a very funny story. We're making a movie about it right now, a feature film about our love story. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. You thought I don't have nothing to lose. I'm going to ask her out. All right. You've written several books in an effort to help people. Cracked, Not Broken: Surviving and Thriving After a Suicide Attempt. The Art of Being Broken. And then you also have The Dimly Lit Star. You want to focus on kids in particular. I think when we talk about suicide, many people still don't understand that it's happening among the population that you think has everything to live for.
Yeah, this is really important, Deborah. More 7 to 10-year-old children are dying by suicide than ever before in the history of the world. More 7 to 10-year-old Black children, I'm part Black, are dying by suicide more than ever before because of media, because of abuse, because of neglect. And I wrote this book for them, The Dimly Lit Star, about childhood bullying and becoming resilient in the face of pain, because we are lacking resilience in this country, and resilience can be taught, and because it can be taught, it can be learned. And finally, this new book just came out, The Art of Wellness. It's how to find, live, and stay mentally fit. It is, in fact, a workbook that you can write in, and you can create a wellness tracker. We're about to launch an app to go along with it. It's going to be incredible in a way you can absolutely track your mental well-being and improve it day by day one day at a time.
Yeah, you also have your documentary, The Ripple Effect, which was seen across 7 countries. And especially since COVID, it highlights, that whole issue of even isolation, which is such an issue as well. And then you have Hindsight, your podcast. And that's one of the things that makes you well aware that we have a crisis out there. You hear it every day.
Yeah, so Hindsight's podcast, HINESIGHTS, top 10% globally ranked around the world. We have people on the show who have triumphed over incredible adversity. We share their stories with the world, and we get great messages in return. And the film Suicide: The Ripple Effect can be found on Vimeo on demand right now. It's a powerful film, and we are currently in the process of making our new film, The Toll, about the devastating toll it's taken, the Golden Gate Bridge, on society and people who are suicidal, and the toll left behind for the people in pain who lost those loved ones. But more importantly, the toll it took to raise the net and effectively stop suicides at the Golden Gate Bridge.
This other project seems like an oxymoron at first, but I see where you're coming from. A comic book version of your life.
Yes, it's called The Beacon. We've gone through different names and iterations at first, but now it's called The Beacon, and it's about it's a cosmic look into my life, and it's an incredible story. We have a phenomenal comic book writer and some artists that are getting involved. We are currently looking for an amazing comic book artist to be our lead. So anyone interested, please reach out at Kevin Hines Story.
All right. June, as I mentioned earlier, is Men's Mental Health Month, and men characteristically may not reach out for help, especially in certain communities. It's seen as being weak. You want people to understand it is not. It is coming from a place of strength. What's your best advice, rounding out, on how to support a friend where you know they're on the edge, but you can't be with them 24/7?
So, my friends, sometimes it's not about the advice you give. It's not about solving the problem. It's about answering the crisis call. It's about listening to understand, not necessarily to respond, and simply being there for the individual emotionally, whether on the phone, on FaceTime, or in person. Sometimes that person just needs a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
You could be that shoulder. You could be the person that gives them the ear to listen that could save their life.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much for your mission, and happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. And if you or a loved one is in need of help, contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by dialing 988. You can also text HELP to 741-741. For more information about Kevin Hines and his mental health journey and support efforts, visit greatdayhouston.com.